You're listening to Puma Podcast.
I'm Bella Perez Rubio, Puma Podcast for Teka Teka News. Senator Francis Tolentino is calling for a probe on the alleged use of cyanide by foreign fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc, or Scarborough Shoal, a ring-shaped coral reef in the West Philippine Sea. This was brought on by reports from the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or the BFAR, which found significant damage at the shoal, possibly due to cyanide fishing by Chinese and Vietnamese fishermen. Filipino fisherfolk claim that China is intentionally damaging the shoal to deter them from fishing in the area. BFAR estimates that the ecological damage has cost us billions of pesos. President Bongbong Marcos has expressed readiness to take legal action if the reported cyanide fishing is verified. In this episode, we revisit my November 2023 report on the impact of the President's West Philippine Sea policy on Filipino fisherfolk.
Ako si Pablo Rosales, presidente ng pagkakaisa ng mga samahan ng mangingisda sa Pilipinas o Pangisda Pilipinas.
Pangisda is a nationwide group of fisherfolk looking to defend the country's fishing grounds.
Sa totoo lang, noong nagpapatuloy pa rin kahit na yung pulisiya ng presidente ngayon na protektahan ang ating West Philippine Sea, yung nararanasan ng naming mga mangingisda na panghaharas ng Chino, sa palagay namin lalong lumala.
China's incursions on our territory have become increasingly aggressive and more frequent as President Marcos Jr. strengthens security ties with the U.S. In their attempts to block resupply missions, they have issued several radio challenges to our ships in our territory.
Government vessels are not allowed to enter. To avoid miscalculations, leave and keep foul. Otherwise,
They've pelted Philippine vessels with water cannons and have even caused collisions. Here's Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro speaking after a collision between a Philippine military vessel and Chinese ships in Ayungin Shoal in October 2023.
The President called a special command conference this morning of the National Security and Defense Cluster in order to be briefed and to give his guidance on the latest violation by China of the sovereignty of the Republic of the Philippines. The Philippine government views the latest aggression by China as a blatant violation of international law. China has no legal right or authority to conduct law enforcement operations in our territorial waters and in our exclusive economic zone. We are taking this incident seriously at the highest levels of government.
The same incident caused U.S. President Joe Biden to say this a few days later.
I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. The United States defense commitment to the Philippines is ironclad. Any attack on the Filipino aircraft vessels or armed forces will invoke our mutual defense treaty with the Philippines.
But it's our fisherfolk who bear the brunt of the danger, and more often than not, they face it alone. Here's Pangisda Pilipinas President Pablo Rosales again.
Itong mga nakaraan lang may binangga ng mga mangingisda malapit sa Bajo de Masinloc. Ito yung mga nararanasan na dati pero kakaiba ito ngayon dahil dati tinataboy-taboy ka lang, sinisinyasan ka na huwag kang papasok sa Bajo de Masinloc. Ngayon hinahabol ka na Kapag nagpumilit ka, talagang tutugisin ka, hahabulin ka papalayo.
On October 2, 2023, a crude oil tanker registered in the Marshall Islands rammed into a Filipino fishing boat, killing 3 crew members on board. It happened in Bajo de Masinloc, also known as Panatag Shoal. It's a traditional fishing ground for several countries and forms part of the West Philippine Sea. Prior to the incident, China installed a barrier that prevented Filipino fisherfolk from entering the shoal from the southeast. It was removed by the Philippine Coast Guard, which called the barrier illegal under international law. The incident is still being investigated by authorities, but President Marcos vowed justice for the 3 fishermen.
Mabuti nga ang mga mangisda natin medyo may resulta ng pagtapang. Kaya lang yung security ng mga mangisda hindi naman kayang i-protect ng ating Coast Guard dahil hindi naman nila sinasamahan o tiyak na binabantayan ang maliit na mangisda natin habang nangingisda doon sa Bajo de Masinloc o sa iba pang parte ng West Philippine Sea.
I asked Pablo how often members of Pangisda encounter the Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia when they venture out to the West Philippine Sea.
Una, kapag naandun, pagka pumunta ka anytime, ma-encounter mo. Dati kasi nangingisda doon, halos uuwi lang, magkakarga ng diesel, magkakarga ng yelo, tapos magpapahinga ng isang araw, babalik na uli. Ngayon hindi na ganun eh. Parang kapag hinaras na sila, uuwi sila at matagal na silang bumabalik. Sa halip, diyan lang sila sa harap mismo ng Sambales nangingisda. Sa halip na pumunta dahil natatakot sila. Inabol ng Coast Guard ang mga Chinese, ang mga mangingisda at sinasabi din na may nakabarang barko ng China doon sa mismong bunganga ng Bajo de Masinloc.
When we return, Pablo gets into what losing access to the West Philippine Sea means for our fisherfolk.
Kaya kami pumupunta sa napakalayong bahaging yun ay dahil nakakahuli kami ng isda. At ang nahuhuli naming isda doon ay kung aming ikukumpara sa panahon ng hindi kami nangingisda sa West Philippine Sea ay talagang katumbas ng isang buwan. Isang buwan na huli sa municipal water ay halos 1 linggo lamang sa West Philippine Sea. So ang kawalan, ang pagkakait sa amin na makapangisda doon at nagresulta na rin ng matinding takot sa maraming harassment na inabot ng mga mangingisda. At kahit yung mga mangingisda mismo na dati nang pumupunta, ay hindi na rin pumupunta. Pinagtitiisan ang kakaunting kita dito sa municipal water natin.
I'll repeat that. 1 week fishing in the West Philippine Sea is equivalent to fishing 1 month in municipal waters.
Ang average na aming pinag-aaralan, kapag sa municipal water ka lang, ang simpleng mangingisda at maglalambat ay nag-average lang ng 5 kilos kada araw. Ang pangingisda kasi ay hindi naman araw-araw. Maaaring pag malakas ang hangin, hindi ka makakapangisda. Pero nakakahuli ka minsan ng 20 kilos, 30 kilos, pero masusundan yan ng ilang araw na wala. Samantalang sa West Philippine Sea, ang mga mangingisda ay pumaparte sila ng halos 10,000, 5,000, 10,000 bawat isa sa kada 1 linggo. Hindi nila kayang gawin yun sa municipal water.
That's why many fisherfolk still go through the trouble of going all the way out to troubled waters.
Ang mga mangingisda natin sa West Philippine Sea, maliliit din lang sila. Nakakarating sila doon dahil isinasakay yung maliliit na bangka nila doon sa malaking bangka. At pagdating sa laot, pinapakawalan sila doon, sinasakyan nila yung maliit na bangka, nangangawil sila doon. At yung nahuhuli nilang isda sa West Philippine Sea, ikakarga nila doon sa mother boat. Kaya nga kahit na malayo sa pamilya at delikado, nagpupursige talaga silang bumalik sa laot, bumalik sa Bajo de Masinloc. Kumpara sa napakalaking gastos sa municipal water, gasolina, yelo, tapos kakaunti lang naman ang mahuhuli mo. Kung kaya mayroon talagang naglalakas loob na pumunta pa rin sa West Philippine Sea, yun nga lang, yun ang inaabot ng iba namin mga kasama na hinahabol, tinatakot, at sa malala pa ay baka mapatay.
Pangisda of course wants the Marcos administration to defend parts of the South China Sea that have been ruled ours. But the president's policies so far have done little to help the fisherfolk who make their living in the West Philippine Sea. If anything, they're in more danger and are even more anxious to venture out, even if many of them have no choice but to go.
Ang tanging lang sinasabi, ligtas na kayo, pumunta na kayo sa laot, pumalaot na kayo. Hindi naman assurance yung sabihin matahimik na at ligtas na. Pati nga Coast Guard at saka Coast Guard natin, Coast Guard ng China, nagpapatentero sa laot naghaharangan. So, itong mga senaryong to ay hindi nakakatulong sa muling pagbalik ng kumpiyansa ng mga mangingisda na pumunta sa laot. Halimbawa, andyan ang Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources na dapat nag-a-assert ng kanyang karapatan at naggigiit na protektahan itong mga maliit na mangisda at samahan sa laot para matiyak na mayroong security ang mga mangisda. Pero hindi ito nangyayari. Ganito na ang patakaran natin sa West Philippine Sea. Kiniklim na natin yan, tututulan natin ang anumang pang-aangkin dyan. Kaya lang, hindi po pwede ang mga mangisdang pupunta doon ng ganun lang ang pronouncement. Kailangan nandun din sila, kasama kami, para kami naman ay tumapang at magbigay ng lakas ng loob kapag kasama sila. Sabi ng mga mangisda, kailan ba natin muling matatamasa ang kasaganaan, kapayapaan at pagkakaroon ng malaking kita para sa ating pamilya at para sa ating mga anak.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka News. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was edited by Freddy Blanco. Our executive producer is Jill Caro, and our senior news editor is Veronica Uy. Don't forget to follow Teka Teka News on your favorite podcast app or listen to us for free on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you like this episode, please take the time to click the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.